Berlin, May the 8th, 1945, the official date of unconditional surrender. In many places, the end of the war had already been dawning weeks before. The following entries from diaries in the possession of the German Historical Museum capture moments from these last days of the war, a war the consequences of which were to alter daily life for many years to come.
Easter Monday, April the 2nd, 1945, Potsdam, Dorothea Günther.
Despite the strict ban, we listened to the BBC News every evening. The difference between it and the reports of the Völkischer Beobachter were immense. The entire West, as far as Fulda, had already been conquered by the Western Allies. In the East, the Red Army had crossed the Oder and Neisse rivers and was closing in on Berlin. Friday, April the 20th, Pankow, Kurtkempf.
Tonight the first artillery fire hit Pankow. In the morning I was in Karow, burying dishes. By the evening, Karow was already Russian. Saturday, April the 21st, Wilmersdorf, Margarete Kopen.
On Saturday we could hear the first artillery fire in the southwest. Germany's terrible tragedy, the worst of all wars, is nearing its end as Berlin is under siege by the Russians. Sunday, April the 22nd, Adlershorst, Karl Deutmann.
Guarding the East Gate. The first shells are falling. I want to take my wife from the apartment to the factory bunker after my shift, but come under fire from a low-flying aircraft. I await my end, pressed to the ground, as shrapnel rains down around me. Monday, April the 23rd, Potsdam, Dorothea Günther.
We heard the artillery drawing closer, then a loud explosion. The Glienicke Bridge had been blown up. So much for the open city. Monday, April the 23rd, Pankow, Kurtkempf.
The artillery has destroyed houses all around. The Russians were on the streets of Berlin. Their tanks started shelling. Monday night I lay down and kept thinking about whether it could be true that diplomatic relations between Russia and America and England had been broken off.
On Monday, April the 30th, the Red Army has already made its way to the city centre. Adolf Hitler commits suicide. His successor, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, is aiming for a partial surrender to the Western powers. The fight against the Red Army should continue. Monday, April the 30th, Pankow, Kurtkempf.
The first Russians arrived at 8:30 in the morning. Everything went more calmly than expected. All they wanted were the clocks. They didn't harm the women. On the contrary, they shared what they had. Early May, Potsdam, Dorothea Günther.
The first wave of Russians that broke over us was terrible. Looting became a matter of course. Every female in reach was raped. We heard that Hitler was dead and wondered if it was just a rumour. But nobody cared about Hitler anymore. We had other worries now. Monday, May the 7th, Pankow, Kurtkempf.
Monday we cleared debris again. I also went to get my first potatoes under the new regime. £5 a week. No water, no light, no vegetables, no fat. Will it stay like this? May the 8th, 1945, Potsdam, Dorothea Günther.
Unconditional surrender. The fighting has stopped all over Europe. The war is really over. How we had longed for this end. But could we call the situation in which we now found ourselves really peace? May the 8th, 1945. Bunker at Alexanderplatz. Karl Deutmann.
There was no food, no light, no water, and no bandages anymore. Men, women, and even more children died. The wounded died. Mothers died during or after childbirth. The toilets no longer drain. The smell of decay is unbearable. Several hundred men and women try to escape from the bunker during the night. They're shot by the SS with machine guns. The others don't dare risk it and surrender to their fate. This is the end of the total war. May the 9th, 1945. City Centre, Margaretekopen.
Rubble was being shoveled away everywhere and deposited in the ruins. There were ruined buildings and piles of rubble at Potsdamer Platz. The government quarter was a pile of stones. At the Brandenburg Gate, the traffic was heavy and there were lots of Russians. Next to the gate there was a car with a loudspeaker attached, playing Viennese waltzes and operetta melodies, and soldiers, many of them drunk, were dancing on the street. Later, in May 1945, Karl Deutmann takes a walk to Berlin with his wife.
Now May has wrapped a green, blossoming ribbon around the dead city. The sound of guns has gone mute in the rubble, and the spring storm chases away the smell of fire and decay. We have become calm inside, as have so many other people who feel free of any guilt for this terrible tragedy. And yet we did witness it. We knew all about the quiet murder of the just, the arrogance and high-handedness, the depravity of the many followers. We watched cattle cars roll past. We saw, behind the iron bars and barbed wire covering the air vents, the deathly pale faces of the Jewish captives who were heading towards certain death. And we had to remain silent, for the sake of our lives, our own poor lives.